Today is April 29th, 2025. My name is Bobby Goodman, and I'm here interviewing Glenn Gottlich about his days at the Columbian Club. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
So, Glenn, let's just jump right in. When were you involved in like a family membership at the Columbian Club?
My family joined, I'm sure, before I was born. I have two older brothers and grew up spending most weekends out there. And my dad played golf, my mom played golf. Mom would take the kids out to the swimming pool. And, that was where our social realm was at that point in time.
So was that probably the early or mid 50s, 1950s?
Yes.
Okay.
I was born in 52, and so it's, mid to late 50s. Spent many days at the swimming pool, diving, swimming, waiting for Dad to come around the corner on the 18th hole.
So as a little guy growing up at the club, were there other kids your age, or there were other family members that you saw that became friends with at the club?
Sure. We lived in a community, went to temple with the same people. Our parents congregated and had their card games in their social world, and obviously, that carried over to the Columbian Club. The mothers would take the kids at the same time and meet out there.
Drop them off and come pick them up later in the afternoon?
Yeah, when we got a little bit older, they'd drop us off, and sometimes when we could, we'd play golf forever during the summer.
Do you recall, or maybe any stories of why your folks originally joined the club in the early 50s?
Well, I only know what I was told or
Sure.
what I heard. I also studied in school, in groups and out groups. And it was, pretty obvious that, when I grew up got a little older, that the, Jewish community was not accepted at many of the clubs in the market. And so they sort of built their own exclusive club, and obviously, and they created one that was fabulous for us, had the best food in the city, and had a lot of fun.
That's a common theme about the best food in the city. What were some of your favorites there, menu-wise? Because everybody talks about the menu.
Well, when I was little, I just ate what I ate, but I can remember at bingo night, the monster shrimp and things of that type, and the buffets were great, and it was very good. I think Mr. Osborne was the manager of the club at the time, and Proctor was a waiter that
Wow.
always took time to visit with the young kids.
That's awesome. So your family grew up attending a lot of those social events, whether the 4th of July, all the...
Right. Even had an Easter egg hunt.
There you go.
That's a good thing at a Jewish club.
That's awesome. So what were some of the activities? You mentioned golf, I think, and swimming. What were some of the other things that you did at the club? What was...
Pretty much that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were probably a lot of bar mitzvahs and things of that type out there. As a kid, I didn't know any different. You just went out there, and also as a child, you didn't realize that there were some places that you weren't invited to, and others that you were. So as a kid, I never realized any of the differences until I got in high school, probably.
Right. So golf. Let's go to the golf. You remember who the pro
Weber.
was when you were playing?
Yeah, Weber. Weber was the pro. And then there was another guy later. His name was Roland Rudowski, I think, and Raleigh Massengale was the caddy master. Back when they had caddies, and there were even microcosms out there, because you had the black subculture was prevalent in all the support areas, and many years later it became Hispanic. So it's have our own interesting situations.
So growing up, playing in, I don't know if they called it the junior golf program, were there a lot of golf tournaments that you played in, or?
Yeah, quite a few. There's many. There were Lady Junior, lady son, mother son, father son, a whole lot of tournaments. You know, they were big time for us as little kids.
Sure.
It was really a family involvement. And as a cute sideline, David Schoss had daughters, and I had two older brothers, so we were all boys. And I played in a tournament where David Schoss borrowed me as his son, and my dad played with Henry, my middle brother, and David Schoss and I won the tournament. And so I have a plaque that says, Father-Son Tournament, first place, David Schoss and Glenn Gottlich. So it's sort of a funny note. By the way, I just gave that plaque to Danny Moorhead, his son-in-law. So,
Wow. Wow. So, and how long were you involved playing golf? Was it all the way through?
probably through high school. You know, I played golf out there and, you know, learned and practiced and all that kind of stuff. And there was a pretty good group of guys, probably 8 or 9 guys that were golfers that played a lot.
You care to share some of those guys' names if you
Mark Zilberman was one, is still around. Joel Ray, Joel Shaps, who moved to California. Those are the ones I remember off the top of my head.
still in contact with some of them?
Not really. I just saw Mark Zilberman recently at a 55th class reunion, but
Very
that's
nice.
and he shot at 74 and he's 72, so he's still playing a lot of golf.
Oh, that's some pretty good golf.
Yeah.
Glenn, tell us a little like the importance of the club. Let's start off with to you as a young man growing up there. How important was the club to you?
Well, outside of my school friends, that was my entertainment and my social realm.
And what about to your family? You said you had brothers, and obviously your parents were there.
Right. Yeah, I think that it was a very it was a Jewish-oriented culture, and so they were out there quite a bit.
Right. All the holidays. It was, and also like we kind of mentioned it, but it's also like the social dining place to go, right?
Right. And you know, if you had an event or you had out-of-town clients or you had out-of-town family that came in, you know, it was a big deal to go out there and, you know, get some prime rib and you know, have a good dinner.
Did you have, we mentioned your two brothers and your parents, any other family members that were members of the club at the time?
No.
Okay. And you obviously made lots of childhood friends there because that's where you were if you weren't in school. Did you keep socializing with them as far as from after you left the club?
Not really.
Okay.
You know, when I grew up and went away to college, I really have very little contact with the group I ran with when I was much younger.
Swimming was a big part of the club, if I recall. Ever go off that big high diving board?
I did. It's interesting. There was a guy named Laurie Sanger who was, I think he was a cheerleader wherever he went to school, probably Hillcrest. And as a little kid, he helped teach me to dive, and I did backflips, front flips, and some gymnastic things. And Laurie was very instrumental in helping me learn those things.
Off the high dive?
Well, off the low board.
Yeah, that high dive was
really we
scary.
started on the ground, but I learned the techniques. So
Yeah, that was a central place of the club as well. If you don't mind, share maybe if you have any special memories of the club growing up out there that you'd like to share with us.
Well, I was fortunate. I mentioned David Schoss earlier. He sort of taught me to fish out there. And I went and got my ride, and we'd walk around the lake back in the old days, real early, where there weren't golfers, by the way. Those were fun days. And, you know, just in general, being out there, you know, you look forward to the weekends because you went to school. Right. And then the weekend is when you went out and, you know, Mom got to play with the ladies and the little kids got to run around in a safe environment. I don't think they worried about the things we deal with in today's world.
Right.
They didn't have a policeman at the front door.
Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's so true, right? Let me ask you, you know, being a part of the Columbian Club community and then, you know, the Jewish community at large, what is your opinion on why the Columbian Club probably closed down?
You know, I wasn't actively involved in it. I don't know. It would strictly be a guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you know, the age groups in many of the social groups like that, they age out of certain things. Mm-hmm. And also it's a financial situation. I'm sure they needed a lot of money to run the club, and if you have a small ethnic group and you need more people, you got to pay the bills. So I'm sure that's why it changed in the complexion, religious complexion, and you know, and went from there.
Do you think that a Columbian Club or what was at one time an all-Jewish club could be in existence today?
I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I really don't think so. Perhaps. You'd have to ask somebody else.
Right. Are you familiar with the new Columbian Club? The
bistro?
Right.
Yes.
Have you been there?
Yes, I have.
Ah, very nice.
When we heard about it, we went and happened to have some memorabilia from those days, and so yes, we went. It was an interesting, fun little place.
I understand they may have some menu items from the old days at the club.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I heard Parmesan bagels. So
yeah. Good drinks.
Pardon me?
Good drinks.
Glenn, is there any question? I have one more question, but is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share with us about your days and your memories of the Columbian Club?
No, they were good times. They were good times.
Right.
You know, the naive young child is always out to have a good time.
So here's my final question to you, Glenn.
Yeah.
So when I mention the Columbian Club to you, what's the first thing that comes through your mind?
Probably just playing golf all day long. You know, I caddied for some of the ladies. They wouldn't let the kids go off before 12 or 1 o'clock on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'd let the women off at 12 and the kids later. And I'd carry a bag for some of the ladies for 9 holes. And some of the stories that they would tell, and they knew your parents very well, and they'd tell you stories about your parents. Those were some sort of interesting days.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your memories of the Columbian Club. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Glenn.
You're welcome.